Greetings, Helldivers! As of right now, we have 22 warbands outside of the standard Helldivers Mobilize warband, and 2 more on the go. One delayed from the June, and one which is going to be collab with Warhammer 40k, but we have no idea when it's supposed to drop. And I bet you probably want them all, but they all cost super credits. So you probably want to know which ones are the best to get and which ones are not so good. And because of that, we're gonna today make a tier list of all of the warbands except for the standard Helldivers Mobilize warband. Let's go! First off, we have the oldest warband in the game, which is the Steeled Veterans, and I'm gonna say it has aged as a fine wine. The worst item here gotta be the armor passive, the servo assisted, giving you increased throwing range by 30% and increased limb health by 50%. And I don't really find it really interesting. The limb health is nice, but not a game changer, and the throwing range is very rarely useful. It's more for trick shotters, I would say. The booster included here flexible reinforcements budget, which reduces the gap between new reinforcement after you deplete the budget. Is situational, but I do see a reason to use it depending on the planet you're diving on. From the primaries we have the AR-23C Liberator Carbine, and it's not as good as it used to be, as back in the day it used to have an explosive type of damage, which made it very good, but as of right now it kinda fell off. But it's still good against the enemies like the Predator strain, which are more aggressive, as it has a standard drum mag and it has nice stagger force. But it does have quite low damage compared to the standard Liberator, given that you also can equip the drum mag on the Liberator. But the Breaker Incendiary included here, which sets the enemies on fire, and it's basically a standard breaker outside of that, is still quite nice. Once again, it is not in its peak performance due to the fire nerfs when the Coyote arrived, but it still is pretty nice if you give time for the fire to actually deal the extra DPS. It's not going to be great if you're just going to spray and pray with it. But the weapon which absolutely withstands the try of time and is still amazing is the Jar 5 Dominator, and I would say it's also the best item from this warband. It's a heavy hitting, medium arm penetrating, jet propelled rifle, and with its power it can shred through any light and medium enemy, even in groups, if the enemies are not armored, and it's amazing at range as the jet propelled bullets do not lose any damage at the distance. It does have a learning curve to it, especially against the flying enemies, but it doesn't make it any weaker. We also have the amazing secondary, the P4 Senator, a heavy hitting with over 200 damage, heavy armor penetrating secondary, and it's one of those secondaries that can even replace your primary weapon. It's a simple classic and with enough power to even fight with something like the Hulk. Lastly, we have the Incendiary Grenades, which are not the best, but I really like them and they are quite good against the groups of the enemies and with controlling the area. The warband is not in its peak performance, but in my opinion it does still hold up, so I am going to give it an A tier. Some time ago I would give it an S, but for now just an A. But the next one did not age as well as the Steeled Veterans, and I'm talking about the Cutting Edge. This one also provides you with 3 primary weapons: the Last 16 Sickle, a mediocre laser-based assault rifle, Plasma Punisher, which is one of the best sources of the area damage in the primary slot, and it's quite good overall, and the ARC-12 Blitzer, which is an absolute disgrace to the democracy itself. We also have the Stun Grenades, which I like, but they are not insanely good, especially that you only can carry 5 of those. And the secondary here, Last 7 Dagger, is really only good for setting the enemies on fire, because it's a little too slow as for the secondary. But for setting on fire we have a way better item in other warband, and overall this secondary is very forgettable. The Localization Confusion Booster on paper looks pretty good, because it increases the gap between the enemy reinforcements, but I personally never really notice it working whenever somebody has it. And even the armor passive, Electrical Conduit, does reduce arc damage by whole 95%, but it really is only useful in full arc loadouts, as usually it's pretty easy to avoid the arc damage even when it comes from the enemies. So even though it provides one quite good item and one decent item, overall it does not hold up anymore, and I'm going to give it a C. It's not completely terrible, Some items are not the worst, even though they are not the best, but still I wouldn't give it anything higher. You're probably gonna feel like on the roller coaster, as now we have the community favorite Democratic Detonation. This warband does not come with any new armor passive, but it does come with the nice ones, the engineering kit and the fortified armor passives. The booster, the Extraction Expert Pilots, is once again situational, just like the flexible budget, but once again I do see reasons depending on the planet why to pick it up, as it decreases the time for the Pelican to reach the extraction, and sometimes it is hard to keep alive for like 3 minutes on the extraction. The first primary you unlock here is the Adjudicator, which is decent, but as of right now it does fall a little behind, even though it is a heavy hitting, medium armor penetrating rifle, but it's not what the warband is about, as right now we are actually getting to the amazing stuff. First one is the Thermite, a sticky anti-tank grenade with enough damage to take down, for example, the Factory Strider in just 2 grenades. I genuinely believe it's a little overrated, as it does take a long time to kill the enemy and it sacrifices a lot of AoE or other utilities of the grenades, but even me, quite a hater of this one, does use it from time to time, as it's still an amazing anti-tank and does not sacrifice the utility completely, as it can destroy enemy bases or the spawners. We also have the Exploding Crossbow here, which doesn't have any flow. It's overpowered to the point there is nothing bad about it and genuinely should be nerfed in my opinion. And you have the Raptor, which isn't broken but is very solid and meta gun, which does cover a large area with the explosives. And even the secondary here is amazing. It's a grenade pistol. Not only you get 7 additional grenades to your loadout, but also it's nice killing power. Either it's a group of enemies or a little heavier medium enemy. I am pretty sure everybody knows where I am going to put this one. The Democratic Detonation of course goes to the S tier. Next up is the Polar Patriots. Just like the Democratic Detonation, it does not have its own armor passive, and the ones that come with it are pretty medium, being the servo assisted and the scout armor passive, but one of them is quite good and it's fortified once again. From the weapons you get the Pummeler, which is the stun version of the Defender, and honestly I never remember it exists, especially after we got the Pacifier, which not only has medium armor penetration but overall better stats for a stunning gun. But the other primaries are way better, being the Tenderizer, which is a highly accurate and with good damage assault rifle, which can keep up with majority of the enemies on any of the fronts. And we have the Purifier, a charge-up version of the Scorcher I would say, which can deal a huge damage to the enemies, or you can just spam into the enemies if you don't have the time for the charge-up. And it's one of the meta weapons, at least I think it still holds up. We also have a very good secondary, a classic pistol, the Verdict, which has 140 damage and medium armor penetration, and it's just if you took the Peacemaker and made it actually good. I would even say that the Verdict is also one of those secondaries that can replace a primary, having good damage, good fire rate, decent ammo economy, etc. The throwable here though is not that good, especially if you have the incendiary grenades, because it's an incendiary impact. It does go off instantly but covers less of an area, and the explosion itself doesn't deal as much damage. Last one is the booster Motivational Shock, and this one allows you to recover from the effects, for example, of the acid of the environmentals a little quicker, and it doesn't really do anything, to be honest. It's like taking no booster instead of any other booster, so I would avoid using this one. So in short, the Polar Patriots is a mixed bag. It does have some items that are not too good, but also have some items that are quite damn good, so it lands in the sweet spot of the B tier. Welcome to the jungle with Viper Commandos, and I'm gonna say it's kinda interesting. The armor passive here, Peak Physique, increases melee damage by 30% and allows you to handle guns easier, in short increasing the ergonomics. I personally don't see ergonomics as such a big deal, but certainly does help. It's overall nice thing to have, especially with things like the HMG or the Raptor. Another nice thing is the Bushwhacker Sidearm, which is a shotgun with 3 ammo, and you can shoot off all of the barrels at once, and it's quite good against the bugs. Actually, some people say it's one of the best for the bugs, but I don't really use it that often, so I can't tell, and I usually don't bring it for other fronts, but it certainly is nice. Even nicer though is the Liberator Carbine, which is a fast-firing version of the Liberator, and it used to be kinda hard to control, but as of right now with the weapon customization you can equip the drum mag and reduce the recoil, making it basically a primary edition of the Stalwart and one of the best weapons against light enemies. But the throwable here is not so good. It's the K2 throwing knife, which doesn't really do anything. It doesn't have good enough damage, it's misaligned with the crosshairs, so it's hard to aim with it. Doesn't have anything you would expect from any sort of the grenade, and except for having fun you shouldn't really ever bring it. But for sure the best thing in this warband is the experimental infusion booster, and it's one of the 4 meta boosters in this game. It modifies the steams, upgrading them so they not only heal you but also reduce the damage taken and increase movement speed, and why not make it just standard? It's very helpful during a mission. Maybe not noticeable, but does change a lot. I would say this warband is kinda weird because we have some amazing primary, nice secondary for at least one front, meta booster, but at the same time it doesn't feel really necessary or amazing, so I'm gonna go safely and give the Viper Commandos a B tier. Though with this one I was the least happy while buying it, and it's the Freedom's Flames. The Freedom's Flames provides you with the armor passive Inflammable, which reduces the fire damage taken by 75%. And the armor passive isn't bad, but I think I would not buy this warband just for the armor passive and would just buy it from the superstore, and that's actually what I did. And since I had this armor passive, this warband didn't really appear to me. In here you have 2 weapons which are basically the flamethrower just on the other slots, being the Torture as a primary flamethrower and the Crisper as the secondary flamethrower. They are not bad, but like I said, they are just a flamethrower, and really only use case for them that I have is going to be using the flamethrower in any other slot if you want to take any other support weapon. It does have a good weapon though, which is a Cookout, which is the incendiary version of the Punisher, setting enemies on fire and pushing them back. It is a nice one, it's damn good against the bugs for example, but I wouldn't say it's that good to rescue this warband. I have no idea how good it would have to be to actually rescue it. It also comes with the worst booster in the game, which is the Firebomb Hellpots. Not only it's useless, but it also hurts everybody, both you and the enemies, but enemies don't give a heck and you will probably die to it, either to the explosion or to the fire. And it happens every time you call the Hellpot, either it's a weapon, supplies, sentry, whatever. There is exactly one item in this warband that would be worth it and you cannot get anywhere else, and I would not spend 1000 super credits to get this warband while I can get the armor for half the price or even less and basically benefit in the same way. Maybe it's going to be harsh, but I'm dropping the Freedom's Flames into F tier. Time for the warband which introduced the stratagems in the warbands, Chemical Agents. This one comes with the Advanced Filtration Armor passive, and it reduces gas damage by 80%. With pair of the Vitality booster, it basically reduces the gas damage to 0. Of course you can get this one from the superstore as well, but this warband has more reasons than just this armor passive to buy than Freedom's Flames. But of course we also have the bad items. First one being the Sterilizer, which is a flamethrower, just instead of the flames you have the gas, and it's absolutely not lethal, and it takes your full attention to actually set things with the gas effect and confuse them. We have way better ways to do it than using this one, and it's genuinely the worst support weapon in the whole game. Also on the bad side is the Steam Pistol, at least for me. As you can guess, it's a pistol filled with the steams, so you can help your teammates and heal them, but it's kinda annoying to shoot with it, and most of the time I would prefer to just run up to them and steam them, but if I can, I guess it's nice. I am not really a fan of it. But on the good side, we have the G4 gas grenade. As you can guess, it creates a cloud of gas. It's a great way to kill little enemies and confuse a lot of enemies. And it's for sure a way better way of applying the confusion than the Sterilizer. This one can also serve as the utility, destroying enemy spawners. Overall, it's one of the best grenades we have. And we also have the guard dog Dog Breath, which in my opinion is the best guard dog we have. It guards you the best as it confuses everything around you, killing little enemies and giving you a lot of room to breathe, to do an objective without any care in the world, or just kill things easier without them hitting you. It might be overstatement that it's the best, because it's not so lethal, but for me it is the best one. And with all of that said, even though we have very amazing items in here, we have also very bad items, so the Chemical Agents I think is a fair B tier. Next one is the Truth Enforcers, and if the drip was the main factor, it would be an easy S tier. Unfortunately, from this one we get one of the worst boosters in the game, that Sprint, which allows you to keep sprinting even after your stamina is drained, but instead uses your health, which is not only very annoying, but also can destroy some very good clutches that you would be able to pull off and continue the missions, but you died because of this booster. And overall, you can still be faster while with the drained stamina than waiting for the stamina to regenerate by walking. If you are walking, the enemies will probably catch up to you, but with the drained stamina running, you still can try to outrun them. On the other hand, the armor passive, at least for me, is quite nice. It provides you with additional armor rating, which is 25, and it's always nice to have more survivability. It also adds a ping to your markers every 2 seconds, which I guess can be useful, but doesn't really matter for me. What matters is that it reduces the stagger that you get when hit, and it's just so convenient and so nice to have, not having your aim interrupted every second. At least I really like it, so the passive isn't actually trash here. We have the Halt Shotgun, which has 2 modes, a stun mode and the medium armor penetrating mode. It's kinda in a weird spot as of right now, because I wouldn't really use it as a stun tool, but you can play with it with stunning, but the damage mode is going to be better, though it has small capacity because you have 2 separate tubes. I don't really know what to think about this shotgun. But on the other hand, the Reprimand, which is not single-handed, actually double-handed, medium armor penetrating SMG, feels quite nice. It's more of an assault rifle, but with its good damage it actually feels pretty good in the close combat. And you have the Loyalist, which is the secondary plus weapon, and it feels like a mini purifier, which has less damage, but as for the secondary, it's quite powerful. Not powerful enough to replace primary, but very useful one. And that's everything you get from this warband. Seems a little dry, but at the same time I really like the passive Reprimand, and the Loyalist kinda carries it, so I guess I can give it a B tier. It's just a little better than the C tier and the Cutting Edge. And now we go to the warband which came out when I was getting into the game, the Urban Legends. The armor passive here is one of the meta armor passives, it's Siege Ready, which increases the reload speed and gives you additional ammo, excluding the backpack weapons, and you just cannot go wrong with it. It boosts every single weapon you have. It doesn't have a primary weapon, but it does have the first melee weapon in the game, which is the stun lance. It's not the best, but it's also not terrible, and it's for sure better than, for example, the stun button when it comes to stunning the enemies as a melee weapon. Although I'm not a huge fan of it. It also comes with terrible combination of the shield generator and ballistic shield backpacks, the directional shield, which is kinda annoying to use and doesn't really even protect you from anything else than the projectiles. And since it only covers you for the projectiles, it's going to be usable only for the bots, and you have to use a single-handed weapon, while the most of them have insane drag, and only really Talon can pair well with this one, as it's not even going to parry anything up close. And for some reason it keeps falling off. There is something that causes it to fall off. I have no idea what. But the 2 other stratagems it comes with are actually very good, starting with the Flame Sentry, which is a sentry with a slow cooldown but is amazing at keeping enemies at bay, covering the area with flames and burning every little enemy, and even heavies if it has a chance. It also explodes when it dies, so if something melee destroys it, it's going to die and not be your problem. The other one is also the defensive stratagem, but it's not a sentry, it's an emplacement, the anti-tank emplacement, which is an amazing anti-tank and very good against the automatons, which give you the most range. And while tricky to use against the Terminids and Illuminated, there it's still a very good anti-tank and utility. Last one is the booster, the armed resupply pods. This one is pretty nice, featuring an automatic gun on the resupply pods. It's helpful on the eradicate and defense missions for some extra firepower, but usually on the normal missions you'd prefer to take something else, as it's not that significant. While this one provides a lot of good weapons, some of them suck so much, and lack of the primary, I don't know. Something just keeps me away from giving it an A, so once again it's going to land on a B tier, but a high B tier. This one gonna take us out from the B tier, at least for now, Servants of Freedom, which comes with last 17 double-edged sickle, which is an amazing primary which hits up and increases its both damage and armor penetration, but it will deal damage to you and set you on fire. While being very good, reaching up to heavy armor penetration and 90 damage, it is very hard to use without an inflammable armor passive on at least medium armor. So only given you have it, it's going to be used in the full potential. But if you are just going to use it as a sickle, I mean, you can, and sometimes you can risk it and deal extra damage. The integrated explosives used to be very bad armor passive, which explodes after you die. It deals good damage and can kill bunch of stuff, but it didn't help you passively actually. But at least as of right now you have extra grenades, which is simply nice and overall useful thing to have. For the throwable you get the Seeker, a little flying drone which cannot be used against the spawners, but it's very good against the flying enemies and overall can be a good punch to groups of the enemies. But moving to the stuff that is amazing without even any additional help. First off is the secondary ultimatum. I bet everybody knows this one as it's a meta weapon and it's an amazing anti-tank that can kill every heavy with 1 or 2 shots, and it still provides you a lot of the AoE as it has a huge explosion. Though since it has only 2 charges, I wouldn't use it against groups of the enemies, but you can. And we also have the portable hell bomb, and do I have to explain this one? It's a hell bomb on your back. You can do anything you want with it. Destroy jammers, large group of enemies, kill the biggest things in the game. I really have to explain why this one is amazing. And I think that since this one provides you so good items either on its own or with some help, it's not an overstatement to give the Servants of Freedom a second S tier of this video. Now we are moving to the borderline justice, and first off we're gonna look at the Deadeye. It's a very high damage, medium armor penetrating marksman rifle, which does an amazing job against the automaton front and on the long distances. But it is kinda slow, so on the closer ranges it has a little trouble, but since it has a very huge punch, it's not going to suck. The armor passive here is situational, which you only really gonna use when you use the secondary as a primary weapon, because it reduces the recoil of the sidearms, but also increases the reload speed and the speed of the draw. And since we are talking about replacing the primary with the secondary, we have one of those secondaries that can do it, and it's a Talon. It's another classic laser pistol which has huge damage and medium armor penetration. It has limit of 6 quick shots, but if you are not going with the very quick shots and space out them, you have unlimited ammo of very good secondary, and it doesn't have problem on range because it's a laser weapon, so it doesn't have any sort of drag. Honestly, only thing you can complain about the Talon is going to be its tiny dot on the side. You also get the Dynamite, which has huge damage, heavy armor penetration and covers huge area, which makes it an amazing thing for deleting a lot of enemies, but it also has high demolition force, meaning you can destroy something like the Fabricator from the outside or the Biotitan Hull. Overall, one of the better grenades, especially when it comes to killing good chunks of the enemies. For the stratagem you get the Hover Pack, which is quite alright. It helps you get into tall places, but it also is a great synergy with some weapons like the Grenade Launcher or the De-Escalator, to which we will get. And the most boring one is the Sample Extricator booster, which has a chance for the enemies to drop samples on death, and the limit is 10. Not really useful, basically doesn't really do anything, especially on the higher difficulties and on the higher levels when you have your destroyer fully upgraded. You don't really need it ever. And overall, it's one of the worst ways to fare the samples. And since most of the stuff here is very good, maybe not game changer, but very good, I think it's fair to give Borderline Justice an A tier. And now we have the fanciest of them all, Masters of Ceremony, and it's not only drippy but also quite good in my opinion. The armor passive it comes with used to be absolutely terrible at the very first, reinforced epaulets, but as of right now, I would say it's quite good. Jack of all trades, but quite nice. Having 20% increased melee damage, which I very prefer because I'm not going to use a sword with something from the Viper Commando, it just doesn't fit. It also increases your reload speed by 30%, and give you 50% chance of not injuring your limb, for example arm or the leg, as arms you don't really want to break while using the melee, and legs usually are an immediate stim as you walk really slowly. The primary is the amendment, a good damage light armor penetrating marksman rifle, which can be also used in a fast-paced combat because it has a good fire rate, good ammo economy, and it has the bayonet which you can use at the close range. Overall, I would say it's the best marksman rifle we have in the marksman rifle category, doing a good job on any of the fronts. For the secondary we get the best melee secondary in the game, which is the Saber, and it combines a good damage with being very fast, so it is very easy to fight with the enemies with this one, even with something like the Overseer, because you can keep staggering it. Of course, there is a chance it will hit you, so keep that in mind. It's not perfect for the Overseers, but overall that's a very good melee weapon. And the throwable is also very good. It's a Pyrotech. It's a combination between Incendiary Grenade and the non-sticky Thermite, covering area in fire, and maybe the explosion deals only medium armor penetrating 50 damage, but the sparkles are anti-tank and allow for a huge damage on the enemies and can even kill the Factory Strider. It's a little inconsistent because they fly around, but it can kill the Factory Strider from 3 to 6 nades, sometimes I think even 2. And of course also this warband has something bad. First off, the one true flag, which is basically a stun lens on the support weapon slot, and it's annoying because it covers your vision in the third person. It recently got a rework, as now it will drag enemies to you if you wave it around, but I don't really even notice it working, so it doesn't change much for me. It's still one of the worst support weapons, more exactly second worst, right after the sterilizer. And the booster is also nothing nice. It's a sample scanner which has a chance for you to pick up one sample and get 2, but just like the sample extraction, it doesn't really do anything. Even if you need the samples, it's better to just pick up majority from the map. Overall, only those 2 items are bad, so I am willing to give this one also a controversial A tier. I don't care if you don't agree. This warband gonna be stunning, the Force of Law. From this warband you get the infamous pacifier, which is a stun AR which has low damage but medium armor penetration, and in my opinion, if you are not planning on using the primary as a main killing force, it is quite nice tool and utility. You also have the ballistic padding armor passive, which on paper doesn't sound like a lot. Only 25% resistance to explosive and chest damage and being unable to bleed, but it's quite nice on the automaton front, especially if you are running the light armor. From the bad stuff we have the stun pods booster, which is like the fire bombs, but at least doesn't kill you. It's still annoying because it slows you down and stuns you. It's not also useful. Also one of the boosters that doesn't benefit you and actually nerfs you. And the second bad item is the Urchin. It's like a termite, just not anti-tank, not even lethal, and more of a stun grenade. So not only it doesn't have any sort of utility or AoE, but also doesn't kill stuff, and it can keep one enemy in place for a long time, but I would either prefer to kill it with the termite or stun more of the enemies with the stun grenade. This one is really only useful for the YouTubers, so they can show you a weapon in peace without the enemy turning away from them. But the support weapon and the backpack I would say are quite nice. The support weapon being the Escalator, which is an arc grenade launcher. It has quite long reload time, but at least it has been buffed recently. And it's quite good chaff clear and anti-tank, believe it or not, but it takes a lot of effort to use its 100% potential. And the backpack is the K9 Guard Dog, which is an arc guard dog, as you can guess, and it's quite good at killing enemies, especially the little enemies. It used to be the best killing force out of the backpacks, but it shoots rarely and it's very often a friendly fire too. So we have some decent items here and some of them suck. So overall, I think we are getting back to the B tier. Next warband is the Control Group, and this one comes with the very popular Warp Pack. It's a backpack that allows you to teleport every 10 or 5 seconds, I'm not sure as of right now. Whenever the orb is purple, you can teleport without any problems, and the second teleport is going to hurt you a little bit, but you can still survive, unless you catch on fire when you're low. And you also have the third teleport. You will teleport, but you will also die, so only use it pretty much once. Although it allows you for such versatility and crossing gaps you would never be able to cross, and it's just ultimately useful, especially that this item allows you to farm for the super credits solo and even get into the bunkers and get the sweet super credits inside. But it's not the only good thing about the warband. We also have the primary, the variable, which has a good damage, good fire rate, good ammo economy and low recoil, and it's basically a Swiss army knife, as it can be assault rifle, sniper rifle, shotgun and sort of anti-tank. Also good items are the arc grenades, which can not only stun the enemies but also kill a good majority of them, but they are unpredictable, so even if you throw them away, they can hop to you and kill you with the arc, but overall I would say they are pretty good. And we have the Laser Sentry, which I would say is underrated. It can keep a good work and it can last longer as it doesn't have ammo, but in case it overheats, it explodes and deals damage to the enemies. And since it's heavy ammo penetrating, it can kill stuff like Hulks or Worst Traders or Fight Titans even. And we also have the Epoch, which is in weird position I would say, because at the same time we have the Quasar, which has a similar power level, but you don't have to reload it. But the Epoch is also good and you can shoot with it more often and use it against groups of the medium enemies. Overall I say it's quite good, it's just in a weird spot. The last thing is the Adrenal Defibrillator armor passive, which reduces damage taken from arc sources by 50%, which is enough to let you survive the arc grenade. It also prolongs the effects of the steams by 2 seconds, but the most unique part is that you don't die when you die if your body is in one piece, as you resurrect in some sense. Overall, you just have additional couple seconds to live and drop a stratagem, finish the objective, whatever really. I wouldn't say it's a very useful armor passive, but it's certainly fun and sometimes can be helpful. So, since majority of the stuff here is either good or very good, but all of it is unique, and you get an item which allows you to easier farm for other warbands, I'm giving the Control Group and another S tier. We have reached our first legendary warband, Halo ODST. Unfortunately, the content here is not so legendary. The best thing is going to be the armor passive, Feet First, which reduces the noise of your steps by 50%, which allows you to get very close to the enemies if they don't see you, which is when you are behind, and it increases the range of identification of points of interest by 30%, but it doesn't really matter. The best part of this armor passive is going to be immunity to leg injuries, so you can never break a leg, so the steam tax is no more. Unfortunately, the stuff in here is not that good as the armor passive, even though it's not bad. First off, we have the MA5C, which is basically the uncustomizable version of the Adjudicator, featuring similar damage, medium armor penetration, but you cannot reduce the recoil with the customization, and you do not have any sort of scope with this one, which is cool, but very annoying to use. We also have the M7S, which is very similar to the Knight, though it has lower recoil on standard, because you can reduce the recoil with the Knight with the, once again, weapon customization, which collab weapons do not have. Also, the Knight has more fire rate and more capacity when edited. Lastly, for the primaries, M90A shotgun, which actually is quite good, dealing a good punch and good push force and stagger force, although I don't really know how I feel about it, especially that there is something way better, which is the sweeper. And yes, it is in the superstore, but you have to remember that legendary warbands are more expensive than the normal warbands, and they cost 1500 super credits. So if you buy any other premium warband, which will cost you 1000 super credits, and use the super credits from inside and additional 100 super credits, you can get another warband and a weapon very similar to an M90A, but way more powerful, for the price of 1100 super credits instead of 1500s for one decent item and not really good warband. The last item in here is the Socom pistol, which is a little better version of the Peacemaker, but Peacemaker isn't too good, so major nice thing about the Socom is it being suppressed, nothing else really. Unfortunately, even though I love the drip and the ODST game is very good, the warband isn't very good and it's landing, I'm sorry Halo fans, in the F tier. This warband came out with the infamous Into the Unjust update, and I'm talking about the Dust Devils. Even though the update was terrible when it comes to performance, this warband is actually quite nice in my opinion. From this one you get the very popular Coyote, which is an incendiary medium armor penetrating assault rifle, and even after nerfs to the fire it still holds up as a very good AR and probably the best one, as the additional damage from the fire just makes it good and overall stats are quite decent, especially if you modify the weapon. Not so decent though is the Desert Stormer armor passive, which reduces damage taken from acid, fire, gas and arc by 40% and increases throwing rage by 20%. This one is only kinda useful against the acid, so you basically delete the damage from it, but if you are going to use it with gas, fire or arc, it's not enough of the damage reduction. And like I said, with the sealed veterans, the throwing range isn't really that useful, so the passive is going to rather be the worst part of this warband. But we are going back to the decent stuff, and the support weapons are actually quite good, starting with the spear gun. It's a subversion of the railgun, which deals less damage, but it has a lot of utility, as it has the gas grenade attached at the end of it, so not only it has a good damage against smaller heavies and the medium enemies with the anti-tank penetration, it also provides a gas cloud for controlling the enemies and destroying the spawners. It also has a good enough of stagger force to stop the, for example, Bile Titan from spitting or stop the flash mob in its track for a second, and they will be confused, so they will not be rushing at you again. It might not have the best ammo economy, but it's very great side grade to the railgun, especially for the inexperienced players, as with this one you are not going to kill yourself and it's a little easier to use than the railgun effectively. We also have the expandable napalm launchers, which I would say have a little too long of a cooldown, but they are still nice. They are like micro napalm barrages covering a very large area in the napalm, and it will be a very good way to kill the back breaches or any other enemy reinforcements, killing a lot of the units. And you get 2 of those. But like I said, I feel like the shorter cooldown would make it even better. We also have the Solo Silo, which is a single rocket with a huge AoE and huge damage, being able to kill big enemies, big groups of enemies, and destroy multiple objectives from any point on the map. Only the worst thing here is how annoying is the sway on the pilot, let's say, that you aim with. But outside of that, the usefulness of this one is huge, being able to one-tap the factory strider or destroy the whole destroy command bunkers missions from one spot on the map. And the last item here is the pineapple, which used to be very terrible throwable, but when it got the medium armor penetration, it is actually very nice for the groups of the enemies. Just have to watch out for it not to kill you. So only one really item here is an S tier, but majority of them are quite nice. They are not the best out of their categories, which are expandables and the railgun-like, but they are very useful. Though I just feel like something is keeping this one away from the S tier, so it gets an A. Now we have a sequel to the Viper Commandos, the Python Commandos. It comes with the armor passive, which also features increased melee damage by 40%, but majority it reduces the sources of the ragdolls. You are not so easy to ragdoll anymore. And honestly, I don't really like it that much, but I know ragdolling is very annoying, so for some people it might be very good. We also have the 1-2 AR, which is a decent light pen AR with additional underbarrel grenade launcher, so you have a little more utility coming from your primary, which is always nice. In this one you also get the Guard Dog Hot Dog, which is a flame guard dog, and it's the best when it comes to killing enemies. It can on its own destroy multiple and even hordes of the enemies, of light and medium ones, and sometimes even heavies. And it's not even that friendly fire, though the friendly fire does happen, and for sure the best one at killing. We also have the defoliation tool, aka the chainsaw, and it was a revolutionary melee weapon as it was actually quite good at the time, since it can destroy variety of the objectives and of the spawners, and it can kill basically anything you want given the time. But ever since we got the breaching hammer, which does everything the chainsaw does simply better and faster, yeah, the chainsaw was too much of a problem to use effectively. The only upside for it from the breaching hammer is that this one doesn't need any ammo. And the other item that is not the greatest and was pretty much a flop, even though everybody wanted this, is a maxi gun, which is the backpack-fed minigun. And it can kill a lot of the enemies, but sometimes it has a problem to keep up. It doesn't have a great damage, it has a very huge fire rate though, and decent economy of ammunition with 1000 in the backpack. But the major problem of this one is going to be immobility, as not only you cannot move when shooting, which wouldn't be that much of a problem, if not for inability to dive. That's just so annoying if you cannot dive and you have to wait for the maxi gun to stop spinning to actually start moving again, in which you can basically be dead. So it's very hard to find a good positioning to use this gun effectively, especially with the insane recoil, so on the distance you will not be hitting anything, especially not on the heavier enemies which have the medium pen spots, weak spots. So with that said, a couple of items here have huge problems, and we have some which are decent and really only one item which is actually very good. I don't feel like it deserves anything higher than the B tier. Just two warbands apart, and we have another legendary warband, the Killzone warband. And once again, it's not so legendary when it comes to the content. The best thing this time is actually a primary, and it's going to be the accelerator rifle, a burst plasma marksman rifle which actually can dish out pretty decent damage, and with its roll, it's pretty nice. The armor passive can be nice for some people, and it's an acclimated armor passive which has a 50% damage reduction to arc, fire, gas and acid. And once again, it's only really useful against the acid, but nothing else much, really only for the bugs. And the primary weapons here are not really anything special. We have the STA-52 assault rifle, which is the weaker edition of the carbine. It does have a basic drum mag, but it's not the same capacity as the normal drum mag, and it has a pretty high recoil which you cannot modify, unlike on the carbine, which makes the carbine superior. And we also have the STA-11 submachine gun, and it's also very similar to the Knight, like the M7S, but it has the higher fire rate and of course higher recoil, which you once again cannot modify. Also, both of those weapons have terrible sights which you once again cannot change, and it's very hard to aim from with the first person. And that's all you get from this warband. This warband is even worse than the Halo warband because their items are decent, but you can get them from the better warband or for free. And items in here are worse editions of already existing stuff. They are not completely terrible, but they are not too good, only really have a good plasma weapon. As you can guess, it's going to be an F tier. We are getting to the newer warbands, and we have only 4 left, starting with the Redacted Regiment and its armor passive Reduced Signature, which combines the Scout armor passive with the Fit First armor passive, creating the best armor passive for stealth, reducing noise while moving by 50% and reducing detectability of you by enemies by 30%. And it's a must-have for any type of stealth, as you are basically invisible, and this armor passive allows you to get insanely close to the enemies without them ever noticing you. And it's also useful on normal missions, so you do not drag attention of every patrol around you. The only item here which is actually only for stealth is going to be the Re-Educator. It's a gas dart gun which is not really for the normal missions, as it will not do anything, but on the stealth, the confusion effect coming from it allows you to kill the enemies in as much shots as you need. So as long as you kill them while they are confused, they are not going to alert anybody, which allows you to use something like the suppressor for stealth. The suppressor is very similar to the carbine, just trading damage for being suppressed, and they are similarly powerful as the suppressor can also be modified, and since you're not dragging that much attention, you will be having quite some room to breathe. A way better one is going to be the sensor, which is similar to the diligence but is better in every way. It can have a scope with bigger zoom, it can have a magazine with more ammo, it has the same damage, and really only thing is the bullet drop, which is worse from the diligence, but it doesn't really matter. With this one you can pick off majority of the enemies on the automaton front with the one tap and go unnoticed, but overall it's quite good killing force for anything else. For the throwable you get a lure mine, and I don't really know how to use it, I'm gonna be honest. It can be used as just a grenade, but it lands very near you, so you have to watch out, though it has a good damage of 1000 and it's anti-tank, so you can kill either a chunk of enemies or a heavy enemy, but it also can keep attention away from you, so you go unnoticed, though I did not master that ability. You also get a support weapon, which is a C4 pack, which is basically a backpack full of mini thermites that are not detectable when you throw them, and they can also be used as an offensive tool with the AoE. You can stick them to anything, to the objectives or even enemies unnoticed, and set them off from the other end of the map, which means that you can plant them around the whole map and with one press of the button kill and destroy everything. It's not only good for the stealth, as it's the best way to destroy bases, but it is a good anti-tank and can be used for setting up traps or just as a grenade. Lastly, we have the concealed insertion booster, and it's the only one from the Hellpod boosters which doesn't suck. This one creates a smoke cloud around the Hellpod when it lands, so it gives you some cover, for example when setting up the Hellbomb. It does cover up the vision of the sentries, but honestly it's not such a big deal. This one is the only Hellpod booster which isn't the negative for you, and for example on the rapid acquisition it serves additional smoke source, which is very good out there. Overall the items here are solid, and this warband is a must-have when it comes to a stealth gameplay. It's not the best one, but for sure it's going to not S tier, A tier. But if this one was a little too quiet and too sneaky for you, don't worry, we have something louder, the Siedge Breakers. Starting with the armor passive, which is not too good, it's supplementary adrenaline. Only good thing about it is the higher armor rating by 25, which is always nice, but if you don't have any other trait coming with it, we have the extra padding, which is on the standard BO1 armor, which gives you 50 armor rating and not 25. And the second trait here is that whenever you get hit, you regain some stamina, but it is first of all really small portion of the stamina, and second of all you would probably prefer to steam, which also regenerates your stamina but also heals you. But that was the only pretty bad item in here, but as the rest is quite good, starting with the last 13 Talon, which is a last shotgun, and honestly it's probably the best lightspan shotgun we have. It does overheat quickly, but if you can space out your shots, it's going to do a very good job at killing the enemies, even the medium enemies, as it's quite precise even though the lasers are random, and since it's a laser weapon it does not have any drag, so we can use it on the distance. We also have the breaching hammer that I have talked about, and it can destroy objectives, spawners and the enemies in just one or couple of swings, though it has limited uses of it with 7 charges, but even after that you can still use it as a normal melee weapon, which deals 300 damage with medium armor penetration, which can be used against the medium targets. Also, since you don't get too close to the enemies anyways, you're probably going to be fine with just 7 charges, which you can keep resupplying. But even bigger boom is the leveler. Just imagine if you have the 500 kg bomb strapped to the expandable anti-tank. That's exactly it. It's pretty hard to use on the distance because of the bullet drop, but overall it can deal with huge chunk of the enemies, killing multiple of them, even a whole reinforcements, and has enough damage to kill the factory strider with a direct shot. And we also have another backpack pad weapon, which is the belt pad grenade launcher, and this one actually allows you to move, though with its small blast radius and small damage, it's more of an anti-tank with the heavy armor penetration than the grenade launcher, but on the max RPM it can deal with the horde of the enemies pretty nicely, even though it has lower damage and not so big blast radius. You also get the throwable, which is GSH39 shield, which creates a little energy shield around you, which can give you some space to breathe, either to reload a stationary weapon, or to access the terminal, or to just survive a little longer while you kill the enemy that is the most important to kill. It also can tank one huge shot for you, for example even from something like the leveler up close, as long as the explosion doesn't happen inside of the shield, of course. The stuff here isn't once again the best, especially the belt for the grenade launcher, which doesn't feel amazing, but it's usable, more usable than the maxi gun. And the armor passive is not amazing, but we do have an amazing primary and amazing support weapons in form of the breaching hammer and the leveler. So once again, this warband is going to get an A. I feel like the new warbands are quite good. Next up you have the World War I themed warband, the Entrenched Division. It comes with the most interesting armor passive, as it actually has variants. The first one being on the light armor, the hazmat, which reduces the recoil of the side arrows by 25%, and it reduces damage taken from the gas by 25%, which doesn't really do anything, but every variant of this armor passive gives you 50% resistance to the explosive damage, which is nice. But the Grenadier version of this armor passive is better, because not only you have that explosive resistance, but you also get 2 additional grenades. About grenades, here comes, in my opinion, the best grenade in the game as of right now, beating even the thermite, as it's a combination between the thermite and the dynamite, the Giga Grenade. You only get 2 of those and you cannot throw them too far, but they are very powerful, combining the best traits of the dynamite and of the thermite. It goes off instantly, dealing huge damage, being able to take out multiple heavies in just one tap, and it covers large area with its explosion, killing a lot of the enemies. It might take more of the grenades for the heaviest of the heavies, like the factory striders, but it doesn't really matter in my opinion, because every other use case just makes up for it. And even though you get only 2, the power of this grenade doesn't make it feel like it's not enough, especially that you get both back with each resupply. You also get the Stoker, which is a slow, heavier hitting SMG with the crisper slapped on the underbarrel, so not only you have pretty good and quite precise SMG, you also have the flamethrower for the area denial and some last resort anti-tank, since it has a heavy ammo penetration, and overall it's very good for both medium and light enemies. For the secondary, you get first of all the entrenchment tool, which allows for the niche entrenchment gameplay at any point of the match. I really like it for the defense missions, but it also is in the middle of the road between the stun button and the sword, having decent damage and having stun effect for some reason, though I would say it's a little annoying because whenever you zoom in you start digging the trench, so you cannot get the camera closer to you if you would want. And the second secondary is the P69 Vito, which I would say is pretty similar to the Verdict, being a medium penetrating pistol, but this one is jet propelled, so it doesn't lose any damage at the distance, even though it has a lower damage than the Verdict. It also has quite nice stagger force, though I wouldn't say it's as powerful, it's similarly powerful. The Verdict is still going to be better, though the Vito is still good. Although by far the best item from this warband is going to be the B-Flam 80 Cremator, which is a flamethrower which deals more damage and has more range. It has a very good ammo economy, which was not common with the backpack-fed weapons before. It has a great damage, being able to burn everything. Whether it's light, medium or even heavy enemy, it has no problem with them on any front. And it's just an amazing piece of equipment that can replace horde clear, anti-tank, a lot of stuff. And since it has that extended reach, it's not going to be that risky or that hard to get close to those enemies. And it just bursts them quickly. And since nothing in this warband sucks and the items here are really great, I don't think it's a surprise that I am going to put it in the S tier. It's really funny to think that people were saying it's going to be a dead on arrival warband, while it turned out to be so good. Finally, we got to the last one and the most controversial one, because it features mechs, the Exo Experts warband. But we don't care if it's controversial or not, we are going to check its performance, starting with the armor passive, the Oxygenator armor passive. This one increases your speed, but also prolongs the distance of your sliding. And the first trait is just amazing and makes this armor passive great and as good as the standard extra padding armor passive, which also is great. Having that additional speed is always going to be good, especially on the light armor, as you can get as fast as possible. and the sliding allows for some fun. Overall, I would say this is going to be very good for normal missions and quite even meta for solo divers, because speed and movement when it comes to the solo diving is extremely important. But we also get the Gallant, and on its own it's not too bad, but its low damage makes it wish you picked up the Super Citizen edition for the Knight. And if you already have the Knight or any collab warband with the SMG from there, these are going to be better than the Gallant simply because of the terrible ammo economy and the damage. But we also have another very fast gun, and it's the Bulletstorm, which is the expandable version of the Stalwart without recoil. As you can guess, it's a great tool for spraying and praying, killing multiple groups of the enemies, whole armies of them with ease, and it has an insanely low cooldown, so you can have it every now and then, and you can just spawn them around the map. And you get 2 of those with each call, so you can give them to your friend, either with the new ones or with the same one from the one pod. We also get the sidearm, which is the missile pistol, and it's the more skillful version of the ultimatum, because this one requires you foregoing for the weak spots and is quite fun, and it allows for the better usage at the distance, because it does not have a bullet drop. It can also be used in the guided mode, which is very good for the flying enemies, but it's not going to be that good as an anti-tank in that form, and it might not be as good as the ultimatum, but it is a nice competitor and it's very useful and nice to use. But the most important here are the mechs. First one, the Lumberer, and this one is basically the Patriot exosuit with a little upgrade, as the crowd control arm has now heavy armor penetration because it's flames, but it has reduced range, and the anti-tank arm simply has more ammo because the damage difference is basically nothing, though the bullets are faster, so technically it's a better anti-tank. Though the more important one is the Breakthrough exosuit, which features a shield which it can bash enemies with and deal a huge heavy armor penetrating damage, as well as the shotgun/flak cannon arm, which deals a powerful punch up close, and it even allows to fight with the heaviest of the enemies on the back and the illuminate front with ease. The mechs of course especially feel good after the recent patch, because now they are way more tanky, so the Breakthrough can be even used against the automatons and not break as easily as before. Of course, it's still not going to be the perfect one because it has pretty limited range when it comes to the automatons. Though I am gonna be honest with you, I don't really know how I'm feeling about the Exo Experts, because I at the same time use the stuff from it, but at the same time I don't feel it deserves something like an A tier, so I guess I am going to drop it in the highest B tier. Lastly, as a little bonus, we have the Helldivers Mobilize, only because the tier list I am using does have it, and I'm going to put it in the S tier because it introduces you to every type of weapon, gives you very good armor passives for the start in majority, and gives you very good boosters, as 3 out of 4 boosters of the meta boosters are in this warband. And the stuff here are not that terrible with some exceptions. It's just a great way to start with the Helldivers. So that is my tier list, and I am waiting for your comments because I really feel like I have done very controversial things here, and this video has been quite chaotic. I will try to not make such a chaotic video in the future with the warbands. But anyways, because my voice is dying like I said, that's all, and I will be seeing you in the next one. See ya, Helldivers!